New reporting reveals that the Department of Justice intends to bring an antitrust lawsuit against tech giant Google as soon as this month. The New York Times broke the story, and it's alleging that the Attorney General William Barr overruled career lawyers who said that they needed more time to build a strong case.
You know exactly who we're bringing in to discuss the latest on the Google antitrust investigation. Friend of the show and research director with the American Economic Liberties Project, the one and only Matt Stoller. Great to see you, Matt.
Good to see you, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So tell us about this case and also the significance of this latest news development that it is expected to be filed within a month.
So, yeah, this would be a big deal. There hasn't been an antitrust case like this for 20 years since Microsoft. And there's been a lot of speculation that DOJ and the states are going to bring a case. And this story is sort of the most, the most detailed understanding of the kind of debates within the division about how to bring the case, when to bring the case. It's a big deal that Bill Barr is saying, bring it by the end of September. I want it done, because we know there's going to be a case before the next administration.
So tell us about the case itself. What would it rest upon, Matt? What are the complainants that basically can argue, and also fold in some of these latest lawsuits that we've seen against Google?
Yeah, so there are Google has $160 billion of revenue, roughly. So it's not small. It also has 8 products with more than 1 billion users. And that means there's a lot of places to go after the company for anti-competitive conduct. But there's basically 2 theories. Okay, one is they use their search engine to privilege their own content or to privilege content that they care about. And that's an anti-competitive sort of what's called self-preferencing. And that would be one theory. And generally speaking, that's a harder case to bring just because the judges are less favorable to that kind of argument. The other is Google controls most of the advertising software that publishers and advertisers use on third-party websites like The Hill or the New York Times or whatever. And there's a lot of conflicts of interest there. And that's an easier case to bring. So the kind of strategic question is, do you bring both? Do you bring just one or the other? And that's kind of what they're debating internally. But the other thing to understand is that there hasn't been a case like this for 20 years, which means there's no real playbook. And so Bill Barr is, it's easy to look at Bill Barr and say, oh, he's a Trump guy and he's doing Trumpy things or, that within that narrative. But actually, this is more kind of just like a bunch of lawyers who always want more time, right? You always want more time to prepare a stronger case, but nobody actually knows what a strong case looks like at this point. And Bill Barr is just kind of like a boss being like, all right, just file it, guys. It's good enough. Just file it. And you'll have that call in any antitrust case.
And so what do you make of the significance of the timing? Does it matter whether it happens now under a Trump administration or in the future under a potential Biden administration? And is the expectation that this suit would move forward under a Biden administration?
I think it does matter, because if the Trump administration files the suit, then it's much harder for the Biden administration to drop it, right? So it's much more likely that the Biden administration takes the suit and expands it or follows through with it versus, because once the decision is made, we're going to bring a suit, then you have to reverse that decision if you want to take the suit down. But if they don't bring the suit before the Biden administration, assuming the Biden wins, then Biden has to make the decision to bring the suit. And that could take a lot more time. So I actually think it's a good thing that the Trump administration would bring this suit. And Biden will probably screw around with it, change it, maybe broaden it, maybe narrow it, depending on who's chosen. But that's the general dynamic.
So here's another interesting thing, if I recall from the Microsoft suit, Matt, which is that basically the Bush administration coming into power and winning the 2000 election is effectively what saved Microsoft. So, basically Google might be hoping and doing everything it can in order to make sure that Biden might be able to win the election. What do they have to fear through this type of lawsuit? Realistically, how long do they take to prosecute? What does this look like? Like you said, we had not seen something like this in over 20 years.
So people are mad at big corporations today. They weren't in the 1990s. So this is the first American political attack on big tech. But you're going to see it's going to come from Congress. It's coming from all over the world. And I think this is the beginning of a big war against large technology firms, but also against large companies in general, more than it looks like the Microsoft case.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And I mean, what are your expectations for the Biden administration's orientation towards antitrust? Who are you hoping that they bring in? Have you seen any signs that there's interest in these issues? Because what we do see is Silicon Valley very excited about the ticket, especially excited about Kamala Harris, who, of course, was AG in California at a key time during the rise of big tech and did absolutely nothing about it. So what is sort of your expectation or hopes for the Biden administration?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anybody know?
If anyone knows, it would be you, Matt.
Yeah,
so if you don't know, no one knows.
It's a broad debate in both parties, and it's as real in the Democratic Party as the Republican Party. But the antitrust subcommittee hearings that were very important were led by Democrats. And I think that there's been a real shift in the Democratic Party about the importance of antitrust and large technology firms over the last 4 or 5 years or so. So keep in mind, you've got everybody yelling at Facebook today, but in 2016, there was sort of an assumption, oh yeah, Sheryl Sandberg's probably going to be Hillary Clinton's Treasury Secretary. I mean, can you imagine Joe Biden saying, oh yeah, we're going to bring in Sheryl Sandberg to be Treasury Secretary or Commerce Secretary? It's just like, that's the dynamic. We have both political parties are reorienting around their approach to large technology firms and corporations. And I think you're going to see that debate playing out in the Biden administration. So I think you're going to find some people are going to say, hey, we need to get much more aggressive against Google and large technology firms and big ag. And there's a bunch of stuff in the platform about that. And some people are going to say, no, we need to protect them for various reasons. It's actually quite similar to the Trump administration, although I think you're going to see more skepticism towards big tech in the Biden administration. But the broader dynamic here is that the business community itself is saying large technology firms are too powerful. So that's what you saw from the antitrust subcommittee, which was largely based on information from their competitors. You're seeing Epic Games is suing Apple. You're seeing a whole series of fights that are taking place within the business community. So this isn't so much, your sort of left-right battle. This is kind of a battle over how to do business in America.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. Always great to talk to you about it, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.